When you read a story that takes one little element of it and makes it into a personal human story, I think we feel more about that. Hi, I'm Charlotte McConaghy. I'm the author of Wild Dark Shore, which is published by Penguin Random House and is out now. Wild Dark Shore is the story of Dominic Salt and his three children who live on a very remote and wild and stormy island, which is halfway between Tasmania and Antarctica. It's called Shearwater Island. Um, and there were a lot of researchers there, but they've all evacuated the island because of the rising sea levels. It's becoming very dangerous to live there, and Dom and his kids are packing up to leave as well, until the night of a terrible storm washes a woman onto their shore. And she is amazingly alive. And as they kind of care for her, they realize that she is carrying secrets and mysteries. And Rowan herself, as she sort of comes back to life, starts to realize that this family are keeping things from her too. So it is a eco thriller. It's a gothic romantic mystery. It's a family drama. It's about the interconnectedness of all living things and how far we go for the people we love. The Salt family are carrying a lot of grief from having lost their mother at a young age. She passed away at giving birth to Orly. So Orly is the 9-year-old, kind of very precocious, passionate, excited young boy who loves botany, and he loves the seeds in the seed bank on this island. And he is kind of most in love with Rowan too, most sort of excited to have her arrive here and wants her to be part of their family. And then there's Fen, who is a 17-year-old daughter. She's a real wild creature. She's left the lighthouse that her family live in, and she now dwells on the beach among the seals and kind of doesn't want to be away from the water. I think I based her on a Selkie. So she's very sort of torn between her two lives, one with the seals and the sea and one in her sort of human body, and struggling with her growth from being a girl into a woman, really, without her mother. And then there's Raf, who is the oldest. He's 18. He is very creative. He likes to record whale song with his hydrophone, and then he plays violin over the top of it to make music. But he's also very burdened by grief, and which has manifested for him as anger. And so he's got these real problems with anger. He punches a punching bag to try and give himself relief from it, but it's not really working. He's not really dealing with the core problem. And these are Dom's three children. Dom is he's carrying his own ghosts and struggling to kind of figure out how to help his children through their grief. They're a bit of a family in crisis at this point, even though they love each other very dearly. And Rowan becomes a real force for change for them. She's a catalyst for kind of looking at themselves and how they are functioning. Shearwater Island is based very closely on Macquarie Island, which is a real place down in the Southern Ocean, and it's an incredible place that's very rich with wildlife. There's millions of seabirds there, huge penguin colonies, incredible elephant seals, fur seals, albatross. It's just a really beautiful, wild place. And I went there for part of my research with my partner and my son, who was 16 months old at the time, which was a very insane thing to do, is take a baby down into the wilds of the Southern Ocean. But it was an amazing trip. And I remember stepping onto this black sand beach and being met with a wall of sound, which I could never have imagined, just from all the animals. But it's a very, very bleak place as well in a lot of ways, because it really carries the memories of in the 1800s, it was a target for oil exploitation. So the sealers and the whalers went down there and they really decimated the wildlife populations. And you can feel that in the air of the island. And it really, I realized when I went there that it had this haunted feel to the island. And that's why this book took on a haunted feel itself. It became a Gothic story about ghosts. As a way to kind of recognize all the blood that had been spilt in Macquarie. I started writing when I was very young. I started writing when I was 14. I did a lot of YA fantasy, but then I moved into adult literary fiction, the first of which was Migrations, followed by Once There Were Wolves, and now Wild Duck Shore is my third adult novel. The three novels do feel like a thematic trilogy, I think, even though they're not related in any way by story or character, but they each follow a very strong, very flawed female protagonist who has in some capacity, has an interest in science and ecology. Each of the novels explores our relationship to the natural world and how that's changing with the changing climate. Migrations was about the migration of the Arctic tern, which is the longest migration of any animal in the world. Once There Were Wolves was about using a reintroduction of wolves to rewild an environment because they have extraordinary power over the ecology of a space. And then this novel it's about many things, I think, but I suppose the underlying linchpin of it is the seed bank that they're there to protect, and the idea that the world's seeds could be in danger of flooding due to the rising temperatures and melting permafrost, and that notion of, well, what would we choose to save if we had to? I am a full-time writer, but I'm also currently a full-time mother. So I have a bit of a juggle with that. But yes, I write full-time. I have a home office in my front room. I go in there. I like to, it can be really any time of day. There's not specifically a time that's better for me, but I like to get in there and have total quiet. I put music on that helps me to kind of get into the right mood. I'm a mood writer. I have to really kind of sink down into the right space in order to feel it flow. It's become a lot more difficult since I had kids. It's really about snatched moments in a way that it never was before. But I've been surprised that even with such a shift in my process and how I can approach and such a different level of focus, that I have been able to get to the same places emotionally. It's a nice reminder that even, when life is challenging, you can create something. What was your best holiday ever? It would have to be Macquarie Island. Most memorable, most life-changing for sure. It didn't feel like a holiday. It was more of it was an adventure more than a holiday. It was not relaxing in any way, but it was astounding. It's a truly kind of wonderful place to go and an experience to have. I also did a safari in South Africa when I was a kid with my family, which has really stayed in my mind. I think seeing all those animals was really, really, really beautiful and a wonderful experience that I would love to do with my children. I think writers have many responsibilities. The first one being to move people, to provide stories that move us, that teach us, that allow us to feel seen, to experience something new, to escape. There's a lot of reasons to read a novel and a lot of reasons to write one. I think writing about specifically climate change in a way, it's an important aspect of storytelling because it allows us to access some of these issues in an emotional way rather than a scientific way. So I think it's hard to grapple with the enormity of climate change, but when you read a story that takes one little element of it and makes it into a personal human story, I think we feel more about that, and we're able to find a level of energy and hope and purpose that maybe wasn't there before. I try to read a little bit of everything. I mostly read fiction. Yeah, literary fiction, I suppose it would be called. I like to dabble in a little bit of crime. I like thrillers. I like mysteries. I like a little bit of fantasy. I like a little bit of romance. I like everything. And I think that's what I've done with my new novel. Try to draw all the little elements of the genres that I love and bring this book that I most wanted to read. When I was younger, I really loved reading fantasy. I liked big, epic adventure escape stories. I remember one author, his name was Guy Gabriel Kay. He's a fantasy writer in the UK. I really loved his work, and I'd say he was the reason I wanted to write fantasy novels when I was younger. As for sort of my adult writing, I mean, there's a lot of great authors that sort of write in the same space that I do. So Richard Powers, Barbara Kingsolver, Lily King, Anne Patchett. Those are some of the writers that I really enjoy. But I also like a lot of the sort of contemporary authors of today that aren't necessarily writing about climate. They're just writing about amazing human beings. So my next project is still very much in the sort of thinking, ideas, planning space. It's very unformed, but it will explore similar terrain, in that it will be about our connection to the natural world. But I think this time around it's going to look at how that connection has changed over time. So it will be a slightly more historical novel that spans into the future as well. It's going to be an epic love story. I think it's my most ambitious piece by far to date. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you for having me.